Hi Sugar Geek, today we are going to make one of the French classics, the tarte au citron.
Or, as we call it, a lemon tart. It's one of my favorites and it's coming up next on the Sugar Geek Show. So what are we doing first?
So we're going to start to do our tarte dough.
Okay.
Pâte sucrée en français.
What does pâte sucrée mean? Pâte sucrée?
I would say sweet dough or sugary dough. So the first ingredient we're going to put in our mixing bowl will be the butter. Be careful, the butter needs to be really soft, not liquid, but not too hard, because we want to have the butter mixing really well with the powdered sugar. Today we are using European butter, which is about 82% of fat content in it. Let's add the powdered sugar. Just to ensure to have a smooth dough at the end, you want to sift your powdered sugar. So to scrape the vanilla, you want to cut the vanilla in two first.
Do you prefer Madagascar, Tahitian? You have a certain preference of vanilla bean you like?
No, I don't. It's
Vanilla is vanilla.
as long as it's a good vanilla. So we remove the seeds and then we add the vanilla bean inside our butter. You want to mix all the ingredients together until you don't see any chunk of butter anymore. So everything is really smooth.
But we're not trying to like cream it.
No, you just want to have, again, a homogenized texture. Don't hesitate to scrape the paddle. It already looks yummy.
Now what?
Now we want to add the eggs. So we want to mix everything until it gets back together in one homogenized texture. Now we're going to add the almond flour.
Have you ever made pâte sucrée with a different type of almond, like hazelnut flour or any other kind of?
Yes, you can add a little bit of cinnamon powder. If you want to have a lemony flavor, you can put some lemon zest inside or orange zest. There is so many things. This is a vanilla recipe dough that I'm giving you. However, you could be creative and add a little bit flavor into it.
Oh, I don't think people often think about flavoring the dough.
Yes, and actually we can also add our flour. So you want to mix in small speed in order to bring back all the ingredients together. So now we want to take the bowl out and ensure all the flour that is on the side of the bowl are getting mixed with the dough. Mix it again. Et voilà, our dough is ready. So now we want to chill our dough in the cooler for about a couple hours, I will say, until the dough is getting completely hard.
You don't want to use this right away because the butter is soft, right?
Yes, and just to ensure a nice and homogenized, you want to mix your dough with your hands too, because the best tool of a pastry chef is what?
His brain. Just kidding. His hands.
We want to do a nice rectangle. The thinner you keep your dough, the faster it will cool down. And let's put this in the cooler.
Okay.
All right, our dough is ready, Liz. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide the dough today in 4. But if you do more tarts, then you can divide.
So you can double this, triple it, however you need to make more recipes.
Correct.
And you took this out of the fridge how long before? Maybe an hour?
About 30 minutes, I will say, just to bring back a little bit to room temperature, but not too much, because if you work with too much of a soft dough, you're gonna have some issue as far as the dough will stick to your table. You also need a little bit of flour to avoid the dough to stick.
Okay.
So right now I'm going to cut the dough in 4. Okay.
Would you always cut it like this, even if you were making like a ton?
No, if you have to do hundreds, you will roll your entire dough and then cut some rings, get the rings in the cooler and take them 6 at a time. So your dough is pretty thin, it's cold, and it's easy to roll. So once we have our dough that is divided, we want to flour your table a little bit. And then I'm going to start, because it's a tart shell that's going to be round, I'm going to start with a round dough. And then I'm going to start rolling.
And we're rolling this out to about a 1/16 of an inch. So we're moving the tart dough frequently so it doesn't stick.
Correct.
Not pressing super hard.
That's really important. And if it's hot in your kitchen, that can be also something to be careful. I think the key to work with doughs is the temperature. So what I'm going to use is a ring that is about, I will say probably half an inch diameter larger than the rings that you're using.
Okay.
And then you cut it. Then you go in the center and you shape.
But I don't think a lot of people are familiar with this type of tart ring. Is there a reason why we use this kind instead of the one that has the fluted edges and the removable bottom?
Yeah, this one is excellent for the heat distribution. So the tart shells is baking evenly. Over here, you will say, okay, my tart shells is done, right? It looks okay.
Yeah.
But it's not,
Okay.
because when you look at it, you see the gap that you have between the dough and the rings.
Yes.
So you want to have the dough at a 90-degree angle from the side of the rings to the bottom of the dough. So in order to do that, you're going to push down the dough a little bit in the angle. So once you do that, then you take your knife.
Going from the inside to the outside.
And then, just to secure the unmolding part, you're taking your finger and with your nail, you're going to create a really little space between the ring and your dough. That's going to facilitate the unmolding part. Make sure to wash your hands before that. So now that we have our tart shells ready, we are going to bake them in an oven at 325 for about 15 minutes, and then we come back in 15 minutes. See you soon. We're going to make our lemon curd that will go inside our tart shells.
I like lemon curd a little bit. It's like
Yes.
my favorite thing.
Lemon is pretty acidic. And the reason why I'm telling you this is a little story is I made this at home for my wife, and she's like, oh, this is really too acidic. And my wife is my best critic. So in order to please the people who doesn't like too much of acidity, I will reduce the amount of lemon juice by 25% and add 25% of orange juice. That will cut down the acidity. However, if you're a person like me who really like acidity from the lemon, I will leave the recipe the way it is if you really love lemon. So your option is on your hands. So you will add the lemon juice.
Okay.
Then you add all the sugar. And then we add our lemon zest. So now you want to bring the lemon, sugar and lemon zest to a boil. So once it's boiling, you want to add the juice into our eggs. I will say 1/3 of the juice will be enough, and we call that tempering the eggs.
Controlling the temperature.
You mix, and then you put it back inside the liquid, the whole thing. And do that outside of the stove. If you use a gas stove at home, I will just add first outside of the stove and then go back on the stove once everything is well mixed together. Otherwise, you have the risk to turn this into a scrambled egg. Unless you want to do an omelette, a lemon omelette at home, but that's not what we're looking for today. And now we cook our lemon curd until it gets thick.
I'm so
And you
excited.
always want to whisk it.
We're still on medium heat?
Medium heat,
Okay.
yes. So you want to bring back this to boil. You see it's boiling right now?
Yes, I see.
And now we're gonna count about 30 seconds of boiling for this small quantity. And that's it. So now we want to put this mixture into our butter. The butter needs to be soft at room temperature. So now we want to beurre mix everything. Oh yeah, it's good.
Good. So that gets rid of all of the little egg pieces and just makes it super smooth.
Super smooth.
Smooth! Now, we're not
So-
cooling this down.
No, I will fill the shells when they are baked and cold. Then I will just pour directly this one inside my tart shells.
Wow, cool. So, is there a reason that you do it warm?
Because the tart shells are not that deep, we're going to put it in a refrigerator, and that's going to cool down the mix pretty quickly.
Okay.
All right, let's check on the tart shells. Here we go. They are baked. So depending on the oven that you have at home, sometimes ovens are baking faster on the back of the oven or in the front of the oven. So you have to also adjust yourself depending on the equipment that you have at home. So in this situation, I will check on my tart shells every 10 minutes. And if you notice that it's getting more coloration on the back, I will recommend to turn your sheet pans so this way you can distribute the heat evenly. So the way that I like to bake my tart shells is really a nice brown coloration. Really often you will find that the dough is pretty white. In my opinion, this is a sign of underbaking, and all the flavor of the caramelization of butter and sugar together will not be as deep as if you bake your tart shells in this really light brown coloration.
Yeah, it's that Maillard reaction.
Correct.
You gotta have that for the flavor.
Okay, so now our tart shells are ready. We're gonna unmold them. You want to wait until your tart shells are completely cold to unmold them.
Okay.
It's just gonna facilitate the unmolding part.
Okay.
So in order to protect our tart shells from humidity, and that's a good trick to have if you want to freeze your lemon tart. That will protect a little bit longer from the tart shells absorb the humidity.
So we're just using the cocoa butter that we normally use when we're tempering chocolate, but for someone who may not have cocoa butter on hand, you can't exactly just get it at the grocery store, would using white chocolate be okay?
You could, absolutely.
Okay.
It will just bring a little bit sweetness into your tart shells, but as long as the layer is thin, I will say it will not really affect the quality of the product.
You can see our tutorial on tempering with cocoa butter right there, and by our, I mean Christophe's.
Okay, so now we are at 28 and it's ready to be poured. You want to go all the way to the top. We don't want to pour our lemon curd too hot, otherwise it will melt the cocoa butter.
Liquid but not hot.
Or at least, so once we pour this, we're just gonna go to the cooler and cool down for about, I would say, a couple hours.
Okay.
Here is we have a little assortment of different decor. So we did some nice chocolate curls. We have some lemon candy over here. That actually, if I believe or not, you did it.
Yes, I did.
You're going to explain us how you did it,
Yes,
right?
this is very, very simple. It's basically just lemons boiled in simple syrup for 3 minutes until it's translucent, and then you let it dry for a couple days.
Nice.
And you can actually eat that whole thing.
I love it. What is this?
Homemade crème fraîche.
You made this?
I made this.
Well, now I will tell you something. I have over 20 years of experience and I never made crème fraîche.
Really?
Never. So I really want to know how to make crème fraîche.
Okay, all right, stop, everybody. I'm gonna teach Christophe something. Hold on.
Yes?
So, real buttermilk, buttermilk that is cultured, it
Okay.
has a bacteria in it similar to yogurt. And you can take that bacteria and add it to heavy whipping cream. And when you give it time, that bacteria turns the heavy cream into crème fraîche, but it takes about 12 to 24 hours. And the longer you let it sit, the thicker it gets. So we
Okay.
want a pretty thick crème fraîche. You say you're gonna do a quenelle.
Yes?
But if we wanted to do a glaze or a thinner crème fraîche, you would give it less time.
Buttermilk, what's the percentage?
It is 1 tablespoon per cup of buttermilk into your heavy cream.
Okay.
Mix and then cover lightly with some plastic wrap so nothing gets in there, but it needs airflow.
Wow.
And then after it's the thickness that you want it to be, put it into the fridge and that will stop it from thickening. And you can keep it in the fridge for 2 weeks. Okay,
Wow.
so now we get to decorate, yeah?
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
I love it. All right. Our tart shells are cold and ready to be decorated.
All right.
So I'm going to show you how to make a quenelle. So you want to have a container of hot water with a spoon, and then you are taking the spoon inside your crème fraîche and you give about a quarter turn inside your crème fraîche and you remove. And because your spoon will be hot, the quenelle will easily be detached from the spoon. And then we're going to add a little curl, maybe half of a raspberry and a little gold flakes.
That looks like the most beautiful lemon tart I've ever seen. But I wonder how it tastes. Wow. Oh my goodness.
That's pretty satisfying.
That is so good. The shell is so crispy and buttery, but it just melts in your mouth. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ding the little bell so you know exactly when Christophe's next dessert video comes out. And we will see you all in the next video. Bye!
Bye.